Your queen just got trapped. Trade it off for 2 rooks? Or 3 minor pieces? Or a rook and a bishop? Is it over? Not even close. Imbalanced games can be some of the wildest, most intense middle game matchups in chess, which is why you need to understand how to play each one. This video will cover 3 classic uneven matchups: queen versus 2 rooks, queen versus 3 minor pieces, and queen versus rook plus minor piece. Each one plays completely differently, and each one rewards a totally different mindset. Let's get into it. First, the honest answer. Which side is better depends heavily on the position. There's no universal formula here. What we can say is that these matchups all share the same underlying story. On one side, you have the queen, a single piece trying to use raw power and mobility to overwhelm the opponent, hunting for forks that pick off material one piece at a time. On the other side, you have a team of lesser pieces whose entire plan is coordination. Due to their lower material value, they can't be traded off for the queen 1-for-1, so their goal is to use their strength in numbers to restrict the queen's movement and slowly push it back. Similarly to endgames, the real prize in imbalanced games isn't material, it's the pawn. Both sides are trying to win by escorting a pawn to promotion, gaining a larger material advantage to secure victory. With that shared framework in mind, let's look at each matchup individually, starting with the most classic one. 2 rooks against a queen is one of the oldest debates in chess. And the rules for playing the rook side come down to one word: coordination. Rooks are long-range pieces that synergize with each other beautifully, but only if you let them. Put your 2 rooks on the same file or the same rank, and they instantly protect one another. Split them up, and the queen will hunt them down one at a time. Here's the thing, though. Rooks aren't as maneuverable as a queen. They are much more sluggish. They can't hop around the board the way she can, which means your attacking and defending is naturally less efficient. As you can see here, the queen has an easy time infiltrating different areas of the board while the rook's movements are much more limited. This has a big consequence. Every single pawn matters. Attacking and defending them becomes much more difficult, so you can't afford to make gambles with pawns the way you might in a normal position, because you don't have the flexibility to just make up for it later. A great practical idea here is parking a rook on the 7th rank. This can allow you to attack or defend the entire back row of pawns, which cannot be defended without the help of other pieces. Another offensive idea you should consider is using the rooks to cut off your opponent's king from one side of the board. Disconnecting the king may restrict the opponent's queen by forcing it to defend the pawns on the other side. Lastly, don't forget about king safety. Queen checks are especially dangerous as they can easily create forks or perpetuals. Create some luft so that your rooks aren't forced to block checks and thereby stop defending pawns. If the position has reached an endgame, you can activate your king to guide a pawn to promotion while your rooks handle defense. Let's take a look at what all of these principles put together looks like. This is a game from the 1998 World Championship between Vishy Anand and Anatoly Karpov. Karpov plays white in this position, with the 2 rooks. Notice how they both work together to dominate black here. The rooks cut the e-file, defending each other and preventing the king from reaching white's passed pawn on the queen side. The back rook defends both pawns. Now all white has to do is use the king and top rook to guide the pawn to promotion and win. And that's exactly what Karpov did. Now let's look at queen versus 3 minor pieces. Here's where things shift in favor of the underdog. 3 minor pieces against a queen, whether that's 2 knights and a bishop, or 2 bishops and a knight, gives a better chance to the side with the pieces. That might sound surprising, because minor pieces can be harder to coordinate. Unlike rooks, they don't see each other across the board the same way, so building that defensive web takes more finesse. But once you pull it off, 3 pieces working together can actually control the board better than 2 rooks, sometimes even outmaneuvering the queen entirely. There's another advantage too. It's often much easier for minor pieces to push back against your opponent's position. Unlike with 2 rooks, it's much harder for your opponent to trade the queen back and get all of the pieces off the board, since there's 3 of them, meaning you have much higher chances of keeping your advantage. This can allow you to dominate the position and force the queen back while you pick off your opponent's pawns one by one. Knights are particularly useful for this since they can attack the other pieces without also being in danger. However, defense here is unforgiving. If you lose even one of your 3 minor pieces for nothing in return, the queen side wins 9 times out of 10. There's very little margin for error. One more thing. Major pieces like queens and rooks get more powerful in open positions since they can effectively utilize their long range. So if you're playing with the pieces, try to avoid unnecessary pawn trades. You want a cluttered, complex position where your pieces can hide and maneuver, not a wide-open battlefield that favors the queen's mobility. You want to avoid trading your queen for a rook in minor piece unless absolutely necessary. This last matchup is the trickiest for the non-queen side, and the material math explains why. 8 points against 9. It's close, but that extra point matters. The queen is much more powerful than 2 pieces and has much higher winning chances here. If you're playing the rook in minor piece side, your goal almost always becomes holding a draw. That said, a win is still possible. If you can generate a passed pawn and keep your 2 pieces well coordinated, you can absolutely turn the tables. Because if that pawn gets promoted, the material imbalance immediately shifts in your favor. The challenge is that a rook and a minor piece don't naturally defend each other the way 2 rooks do, or the way 3 minor pieces can triangulate support over the board. So when you push that passed pawn forward, don't rely on just your 2 pieces. Bring your pawns and even your king into the escort if safe. Every extra defender matters when you're this outgunned. Stepping back, what's the real takeaway across all 3 of these matchups? The queen's superpower is always the same: mobility, range, and the constant threat of a fork or attack on the king. But the piece side superpower is also always the same: coordinated support and the passed pawn to fix the imbalance. Whichever side you're playing, your entire plan should be built around denying your opponent their superpower while building your own. 2 rooks want files and ranks. 3 minor pieces want closed positions and outposts. A rook and a minor piece want extra help from pawns and king. Different tools, same underlying war. Next time you're staring down a queen with a handful of lesser pieces, don't panic. Coordinate. If this breakdown helped, like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments which of these 3 matchups you want a full game analysis of, and I'll see you in the next video.